All right, in the very last lesson, we studied John chapter 8, verses 31 to 47, in which the Pharisees are children of the devil. God and the devil are opposites. God being goodness and the devil being evil. God being ultimate truth and the devil being the father of all lies, right? And all liars are children of their father. That's what Jesus Christ said. Ye of your father, the devil, right? And one of the themes was who is our God, right? Our God is whoever we love, serve, please, and obey the most. And well, is that really God or is it ourself? To be honest, for most of us, me included, it's the self, right? You have to overcome this, but this is our natural tendency. Um, all right. So we said the self is a source of all these problems. It's our fundamental problem with sin, which is our fundamental problem with eternal damnation. It's a source of all fleshliness, all nastiness, which is inherent within people, although people don't want to admit it. It's the reason why we love the world, right? And it's the reason why people do clever, sneaky lies, craftiness, right? Inventors of evil. It all comes from the nastiness within the self, right? Um, all right, so we're going to talk more about the self here. In the last one, we talked about lies. Now we're going to focus more directly on the self. And we ended the last lesson saying this: without the Holy Spirit, we are slaves to sin because we are slaves to self, which is our God. If we put that before God, if we serve and worship, and obey what we want, first and foremost, uh, then really our self is our God, like it or not. So that leads us to a term used in the Bible. It's rendered self-willed, but the actual term is aut Hades. Aut coming from auto, meaning self, and Hades coming from hedon, which is where you get hedonism. It's pleasure. It's seeking pleasure for yourself, seeking to please yourself, putting yourself first. It's a person who is dominated by self-interest, self-love, selfish narcissism, right? And exceptional interest in and admiration for self, right? Narcissist, there's Narcissus, the guy that was so in love with his image that, he pined away all day staring at it until he turned into a narcissus flower, which is a daffodil. All right. Narcissism refers to the personality trait of egotism, which includes a set of characteristic traits concerned with self image, ego, denoting vanity, conceit, egotism, simple selfishness. Okay, that's a definition. I think that came from Vines, or maybe it came from Zod Heidi's. All right. Either way, two credible sources, very studious Bible, experts. Okay, so now what's interesting is that word Hades or Hedon is the name of the Greek god of the underworld and of wealth. So here we have a god who is the god of hell, of death, and of worldly material wealth. All right, does that sound familiar? Well, that's very similar to the Christian devil, right? Right, the god of death, god of evil, plus the god of worldly wealth, right? All right. Now, so Oswald Chambers. That's interesting. That aught Hades, right? There's Hades, right? Oswald Chambers wrote this about pride. So we're going to focus now on self and pride. All right. Oswald Chambers wrote, "Pride is a deification of self, which means you make yourself into a god. When you're full of pride, you're like you're putting yourself on a pedestal, making yourself a god, right? Putting it before God. In other words, the proud make themselves their god. Well, actually, I believe it's more common than that, right? I believe that every time we sin, we deify ourselves because we put ourselves before God. We make ourselves our little god. You know, I admit it, right? Uh, in our culture, pride is generally held as a good thing, but to God, it is a hated thing, right? People who are all full of themselves, right? Thinking so highly of themselves, you know. In Hebrew, there are many words for pride, and none have good meaning, as evident in the following verses. I'll show you this whole list. I'm not going to go through every word here. And you know, the concept of pride is more emphasized in the Old Testament than it is in the New Testament, right? But I tell you what, in the Old Testament, it is bad all around, every verse. Um, Nothing good about it. The following words for pride, proud, and their definitions are found in the Old Testament. Let's see. Oh, okay. My cursor's working now. All right. So I'll just show you these words. I'll run through the list real quick, and then we'll go back and I'll let you. I'll freeze on a portion so you can, you can pause your screen and you can read through these if you want. So what I have is there's no definition of pride here. It's just pride for this word. Wait, what do I have here? Oh, I didn't even have a word here. All right, so this is the word. That's a definition. Here's the word. Here's the definition. These are the verses in which that word is used, right? And you'll see how they're used, right? So I'll just go through. You'll see that this is a very long list, right? And there's many for this. For example, that word. There's many verses that use that word, right? Uh, all these words for pride, and I tell you, all these are bad, right? God hates the proud, right? He'll humble the proud. Right? He'll uplift the contrite in spirit, those that are humble, right? Because you're not full of yourself, right? I mean, when you're so full of yourself, you're making yourself your little God, right? Uh, okay. So, and what do we say? The devil's main resource is to get you to focus on yourself. And I got to admit, I'm a sucker for that, especially when something's passed and everyone is mocking and ridiculing you, which happens a lot, right? And I just get mad and I want to punch people out, right? Well, what does it do? It makes you get fleshly. You really get fleshly. It's taking you away from God, right? It's taking your focus away from God and onto what? Onto yourself, which is pathetic, right? You think I learned by now, but I tell you, it's hard. Who likes being mocked and ridiculed? Um, all right, so I'll freeze there for a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So yeah, you can read these definitions and the verses. Oh, there's some in Greek. Yeah, here's some in Greek. Uh, okay, so that's it for that lesson. That's really short and simple. Okay, so pride is not a good thing, all right? Uh, get your eyes off of yourself. That's the idea, right? Not easy to do, not easy to, I mean, what do we have here? Well, okay.